Okay, we're live, but we got to let it breathe just for a moment here while we bring on Facebook, get everybody under the same roof here, and we can start tonight's show in earnest. And we're good. Welcome in, everybody, to the Huddle Up podcast, presented, as always, by Mile High Huddle. I'm your host, Chad Jensen. With me, as always, my partner in crime, my fellow football priest, and the deputy editor of milehighhuddle.com. He is Zack Kelberman. Zack, it was good. We got a lot of weird stuff to kind of talk about today. We went from kind of being stuck in neutral to going 0 to 60, right? On Monday, day one of legal tampering. But as far as anything Bronco-related, true news that you could sink your teeth into, it all started with George Paton doing the right thing and locking down Shelby Harris on a 3-year deal.
Shelby got paid. I've never really been happier for a Broncos player to get a long, multi-year, lucrative contract than I am for Shelby Harris, Chad. I've been on this bandwagon since 2019. He's been one of the Broncos' best, most clutch players in that time. And what I love about the deal, not only does it give him financial security, getting a little ahead of myself here, $9 million a year, I think 15 guaranteed, 27 overall. It only makes him, by overall value, the 22nd highest paid interior defensive lineman in the NFL. So he got what he wanted. The Broncos locked down one of their young core studs, even though he's entering his age 30 season. And also the Broncos did not break the bank. I cannot say the same, though, for their second signing, which we will get to after the break. But Shelby Harris, I am so happy he got his, Chad. He's the guy that's going to make the Broncos feel good about the investment this season by producing what he normally does, Chad, which is plays. It's all he knows. Playmaker.
That's right, man. When the chips are down and you need a play, that's what Shelby's good for. And, I had my misgivings on whether or not he was going to get paid. I mean, I was hopeful that he would get paid and by the Broncos, but, just to rewind it real quick, to kind of celebrate this triumph for Shelby, he left the 2019 season fully expecting to get paid because he had a very productive season as a sack artist. And then he got out there and no one was willing to show him the money. So he re-signs in Denver on a 1-year, $3 million some odd deal. And basically the message to Shelby was, show us that you're more than a third down pass rusher. And so he did, and he got off to a really good start, stuffing the run, got a couple, 2-3 sacks early in the season, tipping balls, doing his thing. And then he gets the bug, right? The bug cost him 4 weeks, right dead center in the middle of the season. You're like, man, what terrible timing for Shelby. Comes back, and you could tell he didn't quite have the same impact when he came back. And then he suffered that knee. I think it was week 16. And the Broncos were like, look, we're out of the playoffs. Screw it. Let's just put him on IR and bring a guy off, that we can get a young guy to get a look at. And then here we are. I'm just glad it happened because he is so deserving. And I think that's going to give him a boost, Zack, and the D-line room a little bit of a boost, knowing that, their leader in that room is back.
It should give the whole team a boost because the Broncos are finally showing a commitment, Chad, to one of their own, a homegrown guy who's developed by the Broncos, has succeeded with the Broncos, and earned a lucrative contract with the Broncos. The next order of business is to do the same thing with Justin Simmons for George Paton in his first year, Chad. I love the moves that he's made. Again, we'll get into the Ronald Darby signing after the break. I'm not wild about that. But in terms of Shelby Harris, for a first-year GM, a rookie GM, to come in and do what Elway did not or would not or could not do and pay Shelby Harris, I love the move. It's a team-building maneuver, in my opinion. It's going to give the Broncos, the young players, hope. And then, okay, you know what? If I'm good, if I perform, if I bust my ass, they're going to reward me as well. That's how it should be. I love, with a capital L, this deal for Shelby Harris. Shelby got paid.
Amen. So much to get to, not just the Darby signing. We'll touch on that, break it down in depth, see how you guys are reacting to both those moves. Also, a couple other rumors that are going around, what we're hearing the latest on the Von Miller situation. Is anything going to change on Kareem Jackson? We're going to get to all that here in just a moment. First, though, we do got to say thank you to the presenting sponsor of tonight's live stream podcast, Manscaped. Guys, it's time to step your game up, all right? You got to elevate that male grooming. And if you do, trust me when I say it comes with more collateral benefits than maybe right now you might even realize. And there's no better way to do it than with Manscaped, which is the best in men's below-the-belt grooming. They've helped over 2 million men around the world elevate their game. So if you maybe let yourself go a little bit, 2020, quarantine, what have you, Zach, Manscaped is here to help everybody get back on a level and step their game up.
Yeah, get back on the level and exceed those levels, quarantine or not, Chad. I'm holding in my hand right now the Lawnmower 3.0. As we always say, you can use it on your face, any part of your body. I also use, I don't have it with me, it's in back of me though, the crop mops for between your legs, anywhere that sticks together, moisture, dirt, nasty, yuckiness you don't want on your body. Manscaped, for every purpose, every need, every desire for what you want to do with your body to look better and feel better. Manscaped allows you to do that. Trust us on that right now.
All right, guys, you heard it. Head on over to manscaped.com, and if you use the code HUDDLE, you're going to get hooked up with 20% off plus free shipping. So take care of that and trust us when we say your boys below the belt, they're going to thank you.
That's right. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code HUDDLE at manscaped.com. Again, that's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com and use the code HUDDLE.
All right, couple other quick matters. We'll dive right back in. Hopefully you guys are following the podcast page on Facebook so that you can get in on the giveaway. This week we will announce the giveaway winner on Wednesday. As long as you're both liking and following Huddle Up Podcast Facebook page, you're going to be entered in to win randomly to this drawing this week. And we're going to continue to do this week after week. So take care of that. It's easy to find. Open up the app, search Huddle Up Podcast. Not hard to find. We'd love it if you connect with us on Twitter as well, at Huddle Up Pod, the main account, at Mile High Huddle. That's how you keep your finger on the pulse of what's happening in Broncos country and with your team in real time. My partner here, Zack Kelberman, on Twitter, at Kelberman NFL, myself, at Chad and Jensen, and our producer, you know him as Buona Beast. He is a lovable teddy bear, but beware because he will rip your face off. All right, trust. On Twitter, at John K. MHH. And then one last thing here, guys. Take a look at huddleuppod.com. Get your swag on. Get a hat. Get a T-shirt. This is the merch store. Huddleuppod.com. Zach, we get the questions in the stream when we're live almost every single night. How do I buy merch? How do I find merch? This is the merch store. Huddleuppod.com. Easy to remember. And then also, one last thing. Become a supporter on Facebook. If you go to our main Facebook page, which it's not hard to miss, 90-some-odd thousand followers on that page, you'll see the big blue button that says become a supporter. It's $5 a month. If you click that, you get access to our premium video content. We pioneered that with Zach's show, Kelberman's Corner. Just finished episode 10 yesterday, which was phenomenal. And then we debuted the Trickle Zone on Saturday, which was breaking down the NFL draft in a way that is just a different flavor than what you're used to getting on these hour-long plus live streams. So go become a supporter. And like Anthony says here via Super Chat, thank you, bro, by the way. He says, Zach be killing it on Kelberman's Corner. If you're not a supporter, I highly recommend becoming one. Only $5 a month. Trust me, you won't regret it. Keep it up, Zach. Loving it. Appreciate that Anthony. Testimonial, Anthony. Appreciate it. Checks in the mail, my dog. You know what I'm saying. But anyway, it's another way to support us. And if you're not in a position to do that, it's all good. We ask that you do these three things. Number one, subscribe, especially key on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Number two, like the video. All right. That's a small thing you can do, especially if you're on YouTube or Facebook, to help us out. And number three is the litmus test. If we're doing a good job for you, or at the very least, if you respect the effort, even if we might disagree at times, share this video out there and help us continue to grow and reach new like-minded Broncos fans just like you. All right. Okay. Let's we got a few supers that are stacked up, John. So let me just before you can start throwing them up here because everyone's been really patient here. But Zach, the Denver Broncos inked Ronald Darby, and we got questions about Ronald Darby, the veteran corner. He's entering his 7th year. Thank you, Brandon, for the super chat. He says George Payton had a good poker face. I've heard nothing. We're talking about it right now, my brother. But we got to ask questions about, hey, what are your thoughts on Ronald Darby right here on the stream? Neither one of us love the move. We're not going to lie to you. We're not going to twist it and put on the orange-colored glasses. That doesn't mean we're not hopeful that it works out. That doesn't mean that we don't hope and expect him maybe to do well under the tutelage of Vic Fangio. But, Zach, what was your gut reaction to the Ronald Darby move, and especially the report that came out, a few different insiders, including Ryan O'Halloran of the Denver Post, I want to say Troy Rank as well, saying that he was the number one corner on his big board, on George Payton's free agent big board?
I don't buy that, first of all. That sounds like front office or agent spin to me. How could he possibly be in this market, Chad, the number one corner on Peyton's big board? I'm going to make a few analogies, though. In terms of the actual signing, I don't necessarily hate the player. It's not like Melvin Gordon. I hate the contract. I think the first thing that came to mind, and I think for sure the Broncos overpaid, but it reminds me of AJ Boye. That's the other thing. He's an off-injured corner, Ronald Darby. He's expensive. He's more of a cornerback 2 than a cornerback 1, and he can be good when he's healthy, and he cannot be good as well at times, in pass coverage when he's obviously banged up or not playing up to his standard. I thought, though, he's getting more guaranteed money, $19.5 million, more than Joe Hayden is getting in Pittsburgh. And he's on the level of Joe Hayden, in my opinion. I understand the Broncos needed cornerback depth, but I think it's indisputable they overpaid for him. They got a little desperate. A guy who's played one 16-game season in length of his career, Chad, that was last year, and that last season he had 0 interceptions. So the Broncos need a guy who can create turnovers, and I see that he led the league or he has a lot of pass breakups. The only thing that means he's been passed at a lot. He's been targeted a lot in coverage. I hope Fangio can make lemonade out of this lemon, and I hope he's not a lemon like AJ Boye, but they better not rely on him like they did with AJ Boye as a cornerback 1. My first thought, Chad, was I was surprised at the money, for sure.
Yeah, I was surprised. First of all, whether it's true or not, I was surprised that Peyton put it out there on the wire, right, to the birdies, that this was our number 1 corner, because there were some serious studs out there. I mean, put aside Patrick Peterson, put aside Richard Sherman. I mean, William Jackson III, Xavier Rhodes. I mean, those 2 guys alone to me are head and shoulders. Now, look, the Ronald Darby of like the first 2 or 3 years version of Ronald Darby in the league. Now, that was a guy, Zach, I could understand maybe going out and paying some money for.
I mean, he's not that type of player, though, and he hasn't been for a while. And as good as he was for Washington last year, Chad, what is the reason that they didn't bring him back? Was he that good where he didn't warrant a second contract? Last time I checked, they have some salary cap space as well. The fans wanted him back, but he was kind of a failed cornerback in Philadelphia, and he rebounded last year in Washington. But to hand the guy 3 years, $30 million, when you have Justin Simmons twisting in the wind 2 years in a row on the franchise tag, it just doesn't really sit right with me at all. They took care of Shelby Harris, is going in the right direction there, but we don't know Philip Lindsay's status. Second-round tender, original tender. A lot of things are still up in the air, and then you go out like last year. You have your own players waiting, yet you hand Melvin Gordon last year $8 million. This year, same thing with Simmons. You hand Ronald Darby $10 a year, 30 overall, 19.5 guaranteed. Way, way overpaid in my opinion.
I want to grab this real quick, John. Savage Boy Kev. This has been tickling the back of my subconscious ever since the Darby news broke. The Broncos, I know at some point had an interest, a connection to Darby, but I don't remember what season it was, Kev. I'll try and do my research on that. But if anyone can remember what it was, drop it here in the chat. But yes, that was the old regime. Now, look, this is supposedly George Payton's show as far as making these personnel decisions. But hey, maybe John Elway threw down a few names that he liked as suggestions, and maybe this was a like-minded agreement that they both could get behind Darby. Now, here's the thing. What Darby might lack in ball skills, he only has in 6 NFL seasons, he has a grand total of 2, 5, 6, 7 interceptions. So he's barely averaging more than 1 pick per year. And picks aren't easy to come by. So it's not, I don't want to sell him too short, but he doesn't have any forced fumbles. This guy doesn't have ball skills. Whatever he lacks there, he makes up for as kind of, the non-negotiable that we hear about Vic Fangio when it comes to corners, tackling, being willing to hit, being willing to come up and play run support. That's something that Darby, Zach, has no problem doing. But then the side effect to that, unfortunately, the collateral damage is this dude has 1 year under his belt where he played all 16 games. So you wonder, like you said about AJ Bouye, injury concerns, and then it blows up right in their face in year 1, and they had to quickly move on.
I hope it's not the case as to what you laid out, because that would say to me that Elway still very much has power and he's still very much in charge. And I don't want Elway making the decisions. If this was George Payton's decision, that's one thing. But I hope that the Elway influence is kind of weaning. I just think, you could have found a cornerback, Chad, who's a good tackler for 5 a year, 6 a year. You could draft a couple guys next month. You didn't have to overpay for Ronald Darby. And if he was the number one cornerback on the Broncos big board, I have to question that as well. I didn't think they should go out and sign Sherman or Patrick Peterson, but Mike Hilton's out there. Mackenzie Alexander's out there. A lot of decent cornerbacks. William Jackson's out there. Troy Hill's out there from the Rams. If they wanted to spend that kind of money, they could have found a better quarterback, comparable salary. I don't know. I will have to wait and see how it plays out. I was excited about Boye last year. They gave up only a mid-round pick for him, but that didn't work out as well. I just don't like taking reclamation projects on and then handing that new money on top of that.
The one good thing about Darby relative to the Boye recency bias is that he's at least he's younger. He's 2-3 years younger than AJ Boye. So maybe you're still getting him in that prime window where you can not just salvage, because I don't want to come off like this dude is just some straight reclamation project. This dude has talent. Ronald Darby at one point was a very coveted young corner in the league, but injuries have crushed him, and he just doesn't have ball production. So Zach, aka Burn the Guitarist, good to see you, brother. Appreciate you. He says, I'm happy about Shelby, but not about spending $10 million on an injury-prone corner. That's a big oof from me. And Zach, to that point, everyone was saying, hey, what are your thoughts on George Payton thus far? Aren't you stoked at what you've seen so far from Payton? And even as just last night, we said, hey, let's wait till tomorrow and see what some of his actual moves bringing in outside guys into the organization are before we start really trying to jump to any conclusions. This one just leaves, I think, almost everybody feeling lukewarm.
And I'm not going to, denigrate George Payton or jump to conclusions or say he's a bad GM or failing based on this one maneuver. I want to see how Ronald Darby plays out. But it's just kind of interesting in a bad way. The Broncos would take on an injury-prone cornerback considering they got rid of one. Bryce Callahan's injury-prone. Aseng Bassett's coming off an injury. The last thing you need is injury concerns in that secondary, and the Broncos welcomed one more, and on top of that, paid him $10 a year, $19.5 guaranteed. It reminds me a lot again, Chad. I don't necessarily hate the player. I do not like the contract. A lot like Melvin Gordon last year.
Well said. Hey, man, we've got a very full room, a very, very full room tonight. Just on YouTube alone, we're hovering around 500 live viewers, so appreciate each and every one of you. We're in the triple digits on Facebook as well, so thanks. Obviously, it's a high-profile day for Broncos country, day one of the legal tampering period, and the Broncos have been active. I wouldn't say it was anything crazy in terms of signing this, signing that. So, but 2 deals done today, plus some rumors that I want to get to here in just a moment. So welcome to each and every one of you that are with us live tonight. We appreciate you. James Boyd, thank you for that super chat, my friend. Connect with us on Twitter. If we're already connected, do me a favor and do this in the mentions and just remind us who you are, because we like to keep tabs and follow back our superstars. He says, I hate the Darby signing. I think there was better for the price. Yeah, this to me, Zach, smacks of somebody loved Darby. You can look at the box score. You can look at his analytics with PFF. You can look at the tape. Whoever was making this decision, someone was pounding the table for Darby, and for what reasons? At this stage, it's we don't know. I don't want to quite say it's inexplicable, that it can't be explained. There are rational reasons why Darby makes some sense, but at that level, right. Look, AJ Boye, what was it last year, Zach? They're paying him 13, 14 million, something like that. So at least you're not paying that much, but still $10 million for a corner that has had a lot of problems the last 4 years of his career staying healthy. I get it that he finally did get the one season under his belt where he started all 16 games. But that's the one in which you're going to go, yep, all right, now we're comfortable, now we're confident, let's pay him. The best predictor, Zach, of future behavior, more often than not, it's not an absolute. That's why it's the best predictor, not the only predictor. The best predictor of future behavior is past behavior.
The thing with Boye, though, is the Broncos were taking on his existing contract. With Darby, they're giving him new money, 3 years, 30. It's just a lot to me. And it's surprising that they didn't wait for another domino to fall, like a Peterson, like a Richard Sherman, like a William Jackson. They were either desperate and kind of got trigger happy, or they're anticipating cornerbacks lighting up the market and they locked him in for that price. We will see in the next few days, depending on what these other cornerbacks do. Either the Broncos got a relative decent steal with Darby, or are they way overpaid? We will know in a few days' time.
Ben Roth, good to see you, my friend. Really appreciate you. Always good to have you in the chat. He says, will Michael Ojemudia be the other starting outside corner? I'm hoping this doesn't impact potentially drafting a corner in round 1, although I would love Micah Parsons, a linebacker from Penn State. So yeah, like if the Broncos had to play football this weekend, right? Let's say the next game was Sunday. Your starters, if you come out in base, it's going to be Darby and Callahan. And then when you go to nickel, in comes Ojemudia playing the boundary. Callahan kicks inside, plays the slot. So that's currently how the depth chart is poised. As far as how it affects round 1, it does provide a little bit of flexibility, which is one of the things we were saying about why you need to get at least one of these corners from the free agent pool, because it does free you up to kind of be less, not so much desperate, but you can kind of let things come to you at pick 9 if you're George Payton, instead of biting your fingernails hoping that Caleb Farley or Patrick Surtain or J.C. Horn are there. Now maybe, and he's put this out there through the feelers, through different insiders, that one of the big reasons, driving forces for the Broncos going out and landing a starting corner day 1 here was that they want to have the freedom to, maneuver at pick 9, or, freedom of choice, so to speak, at pick 9, hinting, for example, Zach, that quarterback is on the table.
Yeah, this does give them more flexibility, which Peyton loves, and he's left those breadcrumbs for a potential first-round trade back. But this does not, nor should not, preclude Denver from taking a cornerback at number 9 or anywhere in the first round. They badly need depth and starters and role players and everything under the sun because, again, Darby is an injury concern. Callahan's an injury concern. Ojemudia is not ready to be cornerback 1 or preferably cornerback 2 next year. If they do take a corner, which I still think they will, gun to my head, let's say it's Caleb Farley, number 9. He will start outside. Darby starts outside. A healthy Callahan in the slot, and Ojemudia is the depth guy behind that, the number 4 rotational, and he can grow into that role. I don't want to put too much on his plate. He was kind of uneven last year, and this is the whole reason, Chad. I feel like if they were really high on Michael O, would they have shelled out $30 million for Ronald Darby? It says to me that they're not really super confident in the players they have on the roster right now, so there's going to be a massive influx of cornerbacks this offseason.
Dude, it would not surprise me if they sign another corner, to be frank. Right. I mean, just because Callahan is an injury case and Ojemudia is still so young, you just can't count on him. I don't necessarily think it's an indictment on Ojemudia that they're out there paying a guy like Ronald Darby. I just think that because he's so young, like even if he was a first-round pick last year, because he's so young, you don't know exactly where he's going to fall on the developmental curve in year 2. So you got to hedge. You got to come up with some contingencies. Let's grab Sports Crush. Appreciate the super chat, my friend. Welcome. That's not a name I recognize on Super Chat, so appreciate you. Connect on Twitter. Seems a little expensive for a number 2 corner, in my opinion. I am very high on Farley at 9. We can't trade down because Dallas will yoink him from us. Thoughts on Vaughn? # Denver Broncos for life. So, Zach, you start on this one, and I'll jump in.
Well, what Dallas is going to do depends on what they do with their own unsigned guys right now. They have Jordan Lewis and Chidobe Awuzie, 2 starting caliber cornerbacks, or 2 starting cornerbacks in general on the open market. If they bring one back, they used a second-round pick last year on Trevon Diggs. They would not probably take a cornerback at number 10 overall. They'll probably target tackle, edge rusher, interior lineman, safety. They have needs throughout that roster. I don't see them taking cornerback. So if they do move down, they could get Farley, they could get Surtain, they could get J.C. Horn. It depends how far they go, though. If they go to 20, those guys could be gone. But if they go to 12 or 13, there's a decent chance one of them will be there. I'm not in the business, though, personally, of trading back for the sake of trading back. If Farley's there at 9, I'm probably staying put and taking him. You still need another cornerback. Callahan's in a walk year coming up, Chad, and he's been injured 2 of the last 3 years for the most part. They have to, like you said, hedge against the depth chart right now. Let's say Ojemudia crashes and burns. Let's say Bassie never comes back to what he was last year as a rookie pre-injury. Let's say Darby busts. All these factors have to play into it. So, no, I would not pass up on Caleb Farley at number 9 because they signed Darby or because someone like Parsons is there. They badly need reinforcement for the long term and the short term, and that starts with someone as high a ceiling as Caleb Farley.
And remember, if you if you're Vic Fangio, a rookie quarterback is not going to help you this year. A rookie quarterback is not going to save your job. Now, that's not me making that's not my complete argument for saying that's why the Broncos shouldn't draft a round 1Q. I'm just simply saying if it's about winning this year, if it's about turning the ship around, I mean, ostensibly, Zach, you held on to Vic Fangio because you're hoping and expecting to win this year. And if that's the case, a first-round quarterback not named Trevor Lawrence is not going to help you do that. What would help you do that is getting the right corner, getting the right off-ball linebacker, getting an edge rusher, depending on what happens with Vaughn. And that ties into something else Sports Crush asked us. We'll get to that here in 1 second. First, we got to grab Dropped Your Pocket. Good to see you, my friend. Always miss you when you're not in the chat. We're happy to have you tonight. It says, I don't get how the Chiefs have $17 in cap space, but sign an O-line for $80 million, but we can't sign our Pro Bowl safety.
There's a lot of different ways I can go with that comment. As I said to you, Chad, pre-podcast, I'm a little, I don't know, Rich Hurtado, the new Broncos salary cap guy, has left me a little wanting since he took over from Mike Sullivan. The contracts he structured haven't been to my liking. But the thing about the salary cap is, like I've been saying, it's a myth. And the Chiefs have shown that this year and last year when they signed all their players. But they gave you an indication when they released both of their starting tackles coming off the Super Bowl loss. We all knew they were going to attack that position aggressively. Landing Joe Thuney, however you pronounce his name, that was a bang-up move for them. That's a great pickup. But the contract, what was it, 5 years, $80 million? It was just ridiculous money. And that because, again, guys, the salary cap is a myth. If you want someone bad enough, you will find a way to sign them. And I agree with the comment, Chad. There's no excuse as to why, again, they can hand Darby $30 million, but they can't sign Justin Simmons. Now they have to be prepared to meet his asking price at market value.
People want to know what the rumor that Mike Kliss passed along about the Denver Broncos being players for Leonard Floyd, what that implication is on the Von Miller front. In case you guys missed it, Kliss reported today, quote, Broncos were one of several teams who had strong interest in Rams edge rusher Leonard Floyd. Per source, the former Fangio pass rusher stayed home for $16 million per. So, Zach, how do you interpret that? I mean, tomorrow's the deadline that they're going to have to decide what to do with Vaughn. Answer that, and then we'll grab Boggins here.
It's either that they've come to a resolution about his contract and it hasn't been announced yet, or they're planning to move on, because a strong interest in an expensive edge defender, when you have to pay Bradley Chubb probably next year, and you have Malik Reed, who he's going to want a new contract if he balls out again, combined with the Broncos' willingness to spend today. I thought it'd be a quieter day. They signed Shelby. They showed an interest in Brett Jones from the Vikings, an offensive lineman, but that Darby deal, $30 million, 19.5 guaranteed. If they have that willingness to spend and they're looking at Leonard Floyd, which they don't need as a star pass rusher when they have two right now under contract, again, it says to me it's either done in terms of he's staying or it's done in terms of he's going. We will know, though, by this time tomorrow.
You know what's cool? The Denver Broncos re-signed Shelby at a $9 million APY average, but he's only going to count for $4 million excuse me, against the cap this year. And so, I mean, I'm with you in terms of the Rich Hurtado contract. Some of the deals that have been handed out scratch my head. The Shelby one, though, if that's true, and I believe it's true because it's Jason Fitzgerald of Over the Cap reporting it, that's one scenario where, look, the cap it drops by almost $20 million. You know, teams have to really scramble and fit under the cap. And you manage to get Shelby extended for nearly $30 million with a cap hit this year, only at $4 million. And Zach, I think just the way things are going with the pandemic and the way the vaccine is rolling out there, as I mentioned last week, the Texas Rangers announced that they're opening up their stadium at full capacity when their season opens. Things are starting to trend back to normalcy in that direction, which means NFL teams' revenue is going to probably, we can't count on it, but it's looking like it's at least rebound somewhat, even if it's not complete in 2021. And then that means the Broncos can afford to kind of absorb some of that money in 2022 and beyond on Shelby, a little bit more than they would say this year. And then let me grab this from Boggins. Appreciate you, dog. Good to see you. He says, sounds like the Broncos view Darby as strictly a boundary corner with more cornerback depth addressed in the draft. It gives more flexibility with Callahan.
you can have flexibility, but you can't, predict or project an injury. And as good as and he played at an all-pro level last year, but unfortunately those foot injuries are just a bugaboo for him. It does give them flexibility, but you don't want to end up doing what the Broncos did last year, which was playing your cornerbacks out of position. You don't want to see Darby kick inside. You don't want to see Callahan kick outside. You want the best guys to be playing at the best spots for their relative abilities. And if that works out, Chad, it works out. And your point about Shelby Harris, it's the only reason why right now I'm not going crazy about the Darby contract. I want to see the finer print. I want to see the structure, the cap hits. I want to see the incentives built into this. If it's a true 3-year deal, if it's not a 3-year deal, I want to see what's what before I really, sink my teeth into it.
Rocco 420. Thank you, my friend. Good to see you. He says, "What's up, guys? Mile high salute to y'all." Right back at you. "What grades do we give the Shelby and Darby signing? I'm stoked for Shelby, but I don't know about Darby. Hashtag go Broncos."
A+ for Shelby. Easy.
Shelby, it's flying colors. With Darby, I'm willing to hold off on jumping to conclusions. But if I had to just grade it today based on what we know about Darby, what we know about Fangio, what we know about Denver's team needs, what we know about the cap, all that stuff, I got to give it like a C+. Probably C+. Hopefully by this time next year, we look back on this in retrospect and I'm saying, no, dude, that turned out to be a freaking B or B+ or whatever. But I can't lie to you right now.
Yeah, I was going to say a C with the ability and the wiggle room to earn some extra credit during the season and move that grade to a B or a B+. But for me right now, it's a definition of average. It's a good but not overly great player, and I think the Broncos, and it's pretty indisputable, I believe the Broncos overpaid for him in a similar way they overpaid for Melvin Gordon last year. But again, if he works out, I'll happily eat crow. For right now, though, it's a secret.
By the way, guys, if you see us looking down a lot tonight, it's because we're checking our phones for news. All right, a lot of stuff's happening right now. Our friend Adon, aka a 6'10" Mexican on YouTube, appreciate the super, my friend, says, "I agree with Zach, but hopefully the cornerback works out. We'll see. We'll see, my dog."
Yep.
KR in the house. Good to see the queen of MHH representing, and as always, off the top rope. Appreciate you, Christy. She says, "Oh man, this is a tough day for everyone." Yep. Anytime you got to pay the tax man, it's a tough day. We feel your pain. She says, "Paid taxes today. Had to roll with $10. It's all good. We appreciate it.
You don't have to do anything, Christy. We appreciate any dime.
Thanks for keeping us up to date on all the free agency buzz. Yeah, I'm still sweating and fearing my sit down with the tax man, which is coming here very, very soon. I have a ballpark idea of what I'm looking at. It's not pretty. I mean, even if you got to pay $300 to the tax man, you're like, damn, dude, this is money I earned. You got to give it away to the. I hate that.
I had my visit already, and I believe I told you about it, Chad. I turned white when they told me the number, and I'm holding off. April 15th is still 30 days away. They're gonna have to pry that money from my cold dead grip.
John Houston, good to see you, bro. Appreciate you. He says Darby literally got burned all the time in Philly. He blows so many coverages. In my opinion, we should have got Mike Hilton. We overpaid badly for Darby. I'm not impressed.
Love you, John. Agree on both counts 100%. Big Mike Hilton fan. I think he would have came cheaper, but can't change the past now, Chad. Can only move forward.
Cody Potter, good to see you, my brother, longtime superstar. He says PFF had Darby as the number 32, that is free agent. I like it, in my opinion. Yeah, I mean, I don't hate it. I just don't love it. So where does that put you, right? It's in like that C territory, C-, C+, whatever. I know for PFF, he was ranked as the number 28 corner last season. Now, PFF grades, you guys have heard it from us before that we kind of take it with a grain of salt. But I think in the case of Darby, it's probably a pretty good indicator of where he's at. Now, I haven't sat down and watched a ton of tape yet on Darby. I will between now and when we get to some meaningful football. But I don't love it. Good to see you on Twitch. Is that Derek Favretto? Good to see you, bro. Appreciate you. Simon, north of the 49th parallel, up there in Canada, proving the Broncos country is not a geographic location. It is a hashtag state of being, baby. He says, "I'm pumped for Shelby. well-deserved, one of my favorites over the last years. With that money spent, if Vaughn doesn't budge on a restructure, will Kareem Jackson get cut or asked to take a pay cut? I think the ask has already happened. If they've, and I'm guessing whatever the answer back was, they're like, well, he wasn't willing, K-Jack, he wasn't willing to play ball, so let's just not even fiddle with that. It seems like they're going to hold on to K-Jack at his current number. That could change, but they don't have much time to work that out. Whereas with Vaughn, the whole pitch to Vaughn is, look, we need flexibility on your contract, because if you want us to rebuild this roster, if you want us to bring in some studs from around the league, you got to help us you got to take a little bit of a step back. Even if it's not totally like giving up money that you've already been promised contractually, you're restructuring to free up money in the short term that you're still going to get in the long term.
Can you imagine if Peyton decided to keep Kareem Jackson, who really has no loyalty to the Broncos, over Von Miller, who pretty much was the Broncos for the last 5 Peyton Manning-less seasons, Chad? If it's up to me, I'm keeping Von over Kareem any day. One is way more impactful, way more important, and not just on the field, but the locker room, the community as well. Hopefully they can get something worked out with both. But again, their willingness to spend today, it says to me that they have one, if not both, of those players' decisions wrapped up, and we will know tomorrow at some point.
Indeed. Let's grab this super from Antonio. Good to see you, bro, and your cute little doggy.
They put the low tender on Philip Lindsay, the low RFA tender per Schefter. That's surprising.
Hold up, RFA tender. Let me go to over the cap real quick.
And for anyone out there, that means he can sign an offer sheet, and if the Broncos don't match, they get no compensation.
So here's this means that Philip Lindsay's about to hit the open market, guys.
Right, and he's probably gone.
That's what it means. Gross miscalculation. Let me show you guys. So if he doesn't sign, if no one signs him to an offer sheet, he'll get a raise. Last year he made $750K. But this year he would make $2.1 million on the original round right of first refusal tender as an RFA. But Zach, this means the disincentive does not exist for outside teams to go make a push and a play for Philip Lindsay. I mean, this to me is who reported it?
Schefter, Pelissero. I mean, it's legit. I'm looking at it right now. I was about to tweet about it, but someone, and maybe Elway still is wielding some power, because there's someone in that front office that does not like Philip Lindsay. They don't want to give him a contract extension. They don't want to even place a second-round tender for the difference of $1.2 million when you have all that salary cap space to keep a 2-time 1,000-yard rusher, a homegrown guy, former Pro Bowl running back. Wow, that's not a great move at all. I'm very much disappointed with that. And that probably means, Chad, Philip Lindsay is gone this offseason.
That is a kick in the groin. Now, I understand, by the way, thank you, Dave. Appreciate you, my friend, one of our great supporters on Facebook. Listen, Philip Lindsay, I understand that you're on the hook for another $8 million on Melvin Gordon. If you hit Philip with the second-round tender, now you're north of $11 million you've allocated in a low cap year to the running back position. I get that's not ideal, but this is the bed you've made. And Philip Lindsay, I'm sorry, one of the most dynamic running backs in the game. Can you say that about Melvin Gordon? Is Melvin Gordon one of the most dynamic running backs in the game? Is he a threat to house it every time he touches the ball? No, he's not. Now, is he a great utility guy? Is he a bell cow type? Yeah, he can. If you put Melvin Gordon back in a Mike Shanahan system in 02, 03, 04, this is a 1,500-yard rusher. He'll hit the hole, and he'll for the most part stay healthy. He can catch some passes out of the backfield. He's got good size, help you pick up the blitz, but he's not that threat that makes defensive coordinators stay up at night wondering, what are we going to do on the edge? Because if Philip Lindsay turns the corner, we are F-worded. It's very disappointing. I don't understand it. I can't wrap my brain around that one, Zach.
This means that they're siding with Melvin Gordon, of all people, at running back, and they're siding with Pat Shurmur, who probably will be fired after this coming season. Very disappointed. And there's no really another way to spin that, Chad. We talk about George Payton. I'm still a big fan of his, but Darby signing kind of soured me. But the Philip Lindsay news to skimp on $1.2 million for a homegrown stud like that, when you're dying for offensive juice and you're building up your offense, a guy who's bleeded and sweat and cried for his opportunity from a 6-string running back to a Pro Bowl nomination, to not give him a second round tender, not give him a measly 3 whatever million bucks. Bad move.
I know. Think about what you're actually saving. $1 million. It's not nothing, but in the relative grand scheme of things, Zach, in the NFL, I mean, it's peanuts, even in a cap restricted year. I don't get it. I don't get it. I know, Derek, why can't we pay our own guys? That's the $1 million question. That's $1 million question. Let's grab James here. Thank you, James. He says, often injured. I hope he doesn't get in the way of Farley, talking about the Darby acquisition. Do you know the cap hit? I don't know the cap hit yet, Zach, other than the APY is basically $10 million a year. I'll keep an eye on that from over the cap and let you know, James, when we see that.
I can't get over the reality that Philip Lindsay's likely going to be playing for another team next year. And all I can say is, Phil, if you're listening by some chance, I hope your next team actually values you, because the way the Broncos have handled you the last couple of years has been atrocious. And I truly am sorry for what you've gone through. We're always rooting for you, Phil. Always.
Dude, I'm seriously stunned right now. Mehmet, thank you for that super chat. Appreciate you, dog. He says, let go of Kareem and go get Keanu Neal. This was a similar question we got last night. Zach, your answer for Mehmet?
Nah, I mean, I get rid of K-Jack, but if I'm going to upgrade that spot, I'm going to save some money. I'm going to go younger. I'm going to go higher upside. I'm probably going to fill that role through the draft. Maybe Richie Grant in the second round, Jabril Cox, someone like that. I wouldn't want to take a gamble on Keanu Neal.
A very, very top rope, generous super chat from Crudum. And it's been a while since we've seen you in the chat. Let me just tell you, man, super chat or no, we appreciate you, dog. Amazing. Thank you. We miss you when you're not in the chat. So welcome. Thank you. Stick around. I mean, that puts you in rarefied air with regard to the superstars. The triple digit club is rarefied air. So thank you, dog. He says, missed y'all. Been busy at work with recent promotion. Hey, congrats, bro. But I still catch the pod later on after the stream. I'm excited Shelby got his contract. Hoping Simmons gets his deal despite the tag. Thank you guys for always giving quality content. Hashtag Denver Broncos for life. Hashtag MHH.
Thank you, Crudum.
You're the man. And we share a brain with you on that, man. We're stoked for Shelby. You're wondering, look, all this funny money going around, just pay Simmons. Just get it done. Just get it figured out. Get it inked. Get it executed so you can move on and put this behind you. And, you know, it's similar to like Shelby, a homegrown guy. It's good for that locker room to say, hey, look, new GM comes in, pays a guy who paid his dues, right? Who bled for the team, produced through adversity. That's a good success story. It's a good precedent for George Payton beginning his tenure as Broncos GM as far as credibility with that locker room. Take it another step, get Simmons locked down, figure things out with Vaughn, and you're gonna have everyone in that locker room believing in George Payton.
And it's also, he's getting a hell of a safety for the next 3, 4, or 5 years. I mean, you're talking about a top 5 guy who's pretty much the bedrock of Vic Fangio's defense. He can make it go around. He can play corner, slot, safety. He can really do it all, both safety spots. And it's true. You want to build culture and you want to take care of your own players. And I was so encouraged when they signed Shelby Harris. I thought to myself, okay, they're taking care of their own guys. Simmons contract next, then maybe a second round tender for Philip Lindsay. But they give Ronald Darby all that money. They don't tender Philip Lindsay. They're still haggling with Justin Simmons. It still can get done. And I think it will get done. They have until July 15th, which is 4 months from now exactly. But it doesn't send the message the right way. The longer it goes, you're not going to pay your own guys who are all pros, Pro Bowlers, but you'll bring in outside guys. I don't want that same culture to be established this year under Payton.
People saying that we overvalue Lindsay, that he's basically average.
Of course we are.
I'm sorry. Look, guys. All right, let me show you something here. You tell me if this is average.
Amazing.
All right. You tell me if this is overvaluing a player. Here's Philip Lindsay, career yards per attempt, 5 yards. This dude, when he touches the ball, he gives you 5 yards of offense. All right. And look how, relatively speaking, few touches, right? 534 yards or carries, 4.8 yards, 2,500 rush yards, I'm sorry, dude. This is a dynamic player. When this guy touches the ball, he can take it to the house every time. Now, Melvin Gordon, if he gets just the perfect blocks, if that play is set up, just the stars align, Zach, yeah, he can do it too. I mean, this guy can run a 4.5, something 4.6 maybe by this point in his career, 40-yard dash. Philip Lindsay, dude, can take the top off despite starting with the ball behind the line of scrimmage. This is that guy, and I get it. He's diminutive. That's been the knock on him from day one. He's only 5'8" and 190 pounds, soaking wet. I get that. But last year was the first year, despite this reputation, unfounded as it may be, of him being injury prone, Zach, last year was the first year that he really had to deal with multiple injuries in a season, turf toe, concussion, and then the knee. Based on his track record going all the way back to CU and as a pro, that's the exception, not the rule. The rule is this guy shows up and he's there for you 95% of the season at minimum. It's a huge mistake, especially how much this guy means to the locker room and how much this guy means to the community. I mean, it's just a very, very, very dumb decision. I want to give him the George Paton the benefit of the doubt, Zach, but this is just a dumb move.
And think about what Lindsay's done despite the last 2 years, the last two coordinators in Scangarello and Pat Shurmur running him incessantly inside as opposed to outside, not taking advantage of his explosive skill sets like they did in 2018. And a comment said it perfectly. Carlos Hyde got $6 million today on the open market. You mean to tell me that Philip Lindsay is not worth half of that? Half of Carlos freaking Hyde? You can say he's average, you can say he's injury prone, you can say anything you want, but a year and a half ago, before the Melvin Gordon signing, Philip Lindsay was the bee's knees. Every Broncos fan loved the guy. Pay Phil, he's a long-term answer. That he got, Terrell Davis' number, he's bringing back the salute, and now what? He's average, he's injury prone, let him go, nobody cares. Guys, you're going to see, and I wish you could have pulled up Melvin Gordon's career yards per carry, because I guarantee you it's not 4.8. And
I'll tell you, it's like 3.6. I'll bet you $1 million.
And
or in the freeze.
If you don't have that same explosion in the backfield, whether you want to run Freeman or Melvin Gordon or whoever the Broncos are going to pick up, Philip Lindsay is a special running back. And I watched him on goal line situations, inside, outside, no matter where he was on the field, no matter what the deficit was, the injuries, the teams he was playing, he was always battling. He was always falling forward. He was always running hard. He was always sacrificing and dying for his team every single Sunday. You show me another Broncos player that's done that, and I'll show you a Broncos player that's worthy of being around and worthy of being taken care of.
All right, well, let's grab this super chat from Tony G, who's been waiting patiently. Appreciate you, Tony. He says, will there be a restructure of Vaughn's deal, considering that Shaq Barrett re-signed and did not break the bank, and he's been in the top 5 of sacks and QB pressures? I do think, I don't know, I think if the Broncos were going to release Von Miller, it would have already happened. That's my deal. Now, it doesn't mean it still can't happen. It's still in the wind, right? It's still blowing. We don't know for sure which way it's going to go. My gut intuition is one way or another, Vaughn's going to be here in 2021, but the closer you inch to that deadline, the more you have to question that read. And it might be a little bit different than the way Zach sees it, but I think Vaughn, they've even if they just say, screw it, we're picking up the option. They have the cap space. And that 30 some odd million that they opened this free agent period with, that included Vaughn's $17.5 million salary this year. So that doesn't mean that you sign Vaughn or pick up his option, suddenly half of your $30 million is already gone. No, that $30 million in cap space plus 34, 35, whatever it was, Zach, that included Vaughn. So I think they're going to find a way to keep him here, even if it's just on that restructure, but we'll see.
We will. And I also see in the comments that A.J. Johnson got a second-round tender. He was also an RFA. So that's the Fangio at work, guys. A guy, a defensive-minded head coach who really pays little attention to the offense, and he hasn't shown a proclivity to learn much about the offense. I think he wields some power in the front office and decision-making personnel management to give AJ, as good as he is, he's a strict, limited two-down linebacker, and to give him a second-round tender and let go of an offensive explosion, a centerpiece, if you will, at some point in the season, and let him go for an original round tender, I do not know. I do not know.
Indeed. All right, real quick, John, as we come up to about the 50-minute mark, let me just tell you where I'm at. I've got Daniel Dennis at 7:04, but in between are many, many patient supers, including Muhammad again, Jesse, Rose, Jake King, Drew, Christian, 360 Nate, Sam, CZ, Jackie, John, Rogue Theories in the house, etc. So we'll start with MHH resident male model, Muhammad Badri. Love you, bro. He says, I am happy we signed Shelby. Yeah, dude, that's the one thing so far through this free agency period that I can be fully 100% perfectly, absolutely on board with is the Broncos got this dude signed up on a long-term deal, multi-year deal.
And apparently, Chad, as Brian points out here, Melvin Gordon wasn't 3.6; he was 4.1. So almost, over a full half-yard carry difference. And the point remains: Philip Lindsay was always doing way more with way less than what Melvin Gordon got, and they gave him all that money for his pass catching. Well, if you threw the ball to Philip Lindsay, he can catch passes. If you want to run him on goal line, he can run on goal line. Just watch the film instead of listening to the narrative. I'm still heated about this. I do not like what the Broncos are doing, potentially losing, if not probably losing, Philip Lindsay. Can't get over it.
Indeed. John, while you grab the next feed, let me grab Daniel here, who says, thank you, Daniel. He says, if the Broncos won the locker room with the Shelby signing, they just doubled back and said, screw the locker room and the fans with Lindsay. I know, dude, it's mixed messages. I think it's a gross miscalculation. I mean, it's not going to be the end of the world if the Broncos lose a running back, but to me, Philip Lindsay means more to this team than just simply a guy that totes the rock. I mean, we've already discussed what he does on the field and how we perceive that value that he brings to the team, but what he does, what he represents is that homegrown, true blue Denver Broncos success story, born and raised in Denver, original homegrown guy that signed with the team, didn't get drafted, but signed with the team out of college. Then he goes on and blows away multiple NFL records, makes a Pro Bowl, a couple 1,000-yard rushing seasons. And it's not going to take all the money in the world to re-sign this dude. And you're letting him twist in the wind. And now you basically just said, hey, go out and hit the open market. Because, Zach, if a team comes in and says, look, because obviously the Broncos just telegraphed that they're not willing to pay more than $2.1 million for Philip Lindsay this year. So if a team comes in and says, here's $2.5 million for, 2 years, here's a $5 million 2-year deal. Goodbye. He's gone. They're not going to match that. Maybe they will, but I think they spoke loud and clearly with this news.
Well, ML here thinks he got us by saying that Lindsay's replaceable and to relax. Listen, ML, every player is replaceable in the NFL unless your name is Patrick Mahomes. And you know what? There'll be a quarterback however long from now that comes out and is just as good as he is. He is replaceable, but what message does it send when you're getting rid of Lindsay more than likely? You won't pay Simmons, but you'll bring in outside talent, and you're probably letting go of Von Miller as well. So your homegrown guys, the guys who fans best associate with the Denver Broncos, you haven't shown an interest in preserving, but you're quickly willing to shell out outside money to players that have no emotional or physical connection or professional connection to Denver. It doesn't send the right message to me. That's my opinion. Anyway, that's how I look at it.
Jetsy, thank you for the super chat, my friend. We got to reverse engineer it because the chat is just so hot and heavy tonight. He says, my guys, what's Kareem, Simmons, Vaughn? What's the timetable for them? So the Vaughn thing and the Kareem thing, that's tomorrow. Simmons, they have till July to come up with a multi-year deal. Lindsay, now he's just in the wind, dude. I mean, he's twisting. It's all dependent now on if another team is going to make a play for him. And I guarantee you it's going to happen. I'll guarantee it right now. If it's not the Patriots, it's a team that has a proven system that's already in place with a quarterback, a plug-and-play scenario in which you can just say, here you go, off to the races. Here's one of the most dynamic offensive weapons in the NFL on the relative cheap, because even if your offer sheet is just $2.5 million, I mean, that's, to me, I know he's been making peanuts, but to me, that's cheap for what value Philip Lindsay brings to an NFL team.
I can see him signing with the Raiders and being like a 1-2 combination with Josh Jacobs. I can see him going to New England, considering they're signing literally every player that exists today. I can see him going to San Francisco and blossoming in that Kyle Shanahan elite run blocking scheme. He can go to a lot of places. He's pretty scheme versatile in the fact of how you want to use him. If you want to use him as a weapon, he can be a very impactful weapon. If you want to play him like an inside Freeman type, he's not going to do much for you, but some coach out there, if they do sign him and the Broncos do refuse to match that offer, they will be getting a very good, if not potentially great running back. It's going to give them a 1,000-yard season if they give him that opportunity.
Jay King, thank you for the super chat, my friend. It means a lot to us. Really do. Appreciate you, my dog. Zach, we also got one here from a newer name we don't recognize. I'll just say I.
Hey, Rose.
There you go. A Rose. All right.
First
live stream in a while. Thank God for Spotify. Appreciate all the work you guys do. Hashtag Broncos Country. Hashtag SBNGF.
Don't know.
Yeah, I'm trying to interpret that. Zach's usually my
SB Nation
Rosetta
girlfriend.
Stone.
I don't know.
I don't know, dog.
Clarify if you want.
Appreciate you. Drew in the house, going to be on the show a week from tonight. Looking forward to that. He says, the more I think about the Darby move, the less I like it. Another overpaid, underproducing, injury-prone corner. How you feeling about George Paton now, Broncos Country? I don't say that with any kind of – I'm like curious. Now, what are your thoughts? We're seeing dominoes fall, right? RFA tenders. AJ gets second round. Phillip gets short shrift with an original round. Go out and sign Darby. Brought back Shelby. Tell us what your thoughts are now on George Paton. But Zach, it's a little alarming. It's a little alarming. I'm not going to
lie. K-Jack's not getting picked up as option. God, there's so much news coming out. Is that? I see some comments. And we told you guys it probably meant if the Broncos were spending like this, it probably meant that there's decisions that they've already made. And Kareem Jackson, it's looking like his option wasn't picked up.
And if that's the case, you just freed up another $10 million on the cap. Christian, good to see you, bro. Appreciate you. Hey guys, makes me kind of mad. We paid Darby $10 million before we can pay Justin Simmons, and Peyton only has till tomorrow to decide on Vaughn. We just learned about Kareem. It'll be interesting. Indeed. Let's talk about the Kareem thing. Could this be a foreshadowing of him just re-signing at a lower deal, or do you think this was straight up cut and dry? Thanks for everything. Goodbye.
I think it sounds like they said, Kareem, we want you to take a pay cut. Kareem said, no, I will not. And they said, okay, well, we're going to release you then. That's a pure guess on my part. We're literally podcasting right now, so we can't get to the news. But I'm kind of glad if this is the case. It kind of boosts up George Paton's stock in my book, because I did not think Kareem Jackson was worth keeping around at his current figure. He was really a one-dimensional safety last year, good in run support, but pretty awful in coverage. The Broncos can do a lot better with that money, Chad. $10 million is a lot. They can sign two guys or one premium guy with that money they just cleared from one player, or they can put it to Von Miller and keep the future Hall of Famer around. But I think if this is the truth, if they move on completely and the ties are severed, I actually like this move. You have to get younger and better at that spot. You're devoting money to Justin Simmons more than likely, either on the franchise tag or a long-term deal. You can't pay two high-priced safeties and Darby on top of that. So I like it.
That was my phone ringing. Nick Kendall. We got so much news coming out. Nick helping us organize what content to grab while we're live, since the news is hitting the wire big time. He's going to grab the Kareem Jackson news for us. Rello Takeover. Good to see you, bro. Appreciate the super chat. Always great to have you. We got some comments coming in. We got Christian. Okay, we did get Christian. John, what about the 360 Nate? Should I reverse engineer that? And then Sam and Jackie as well. I can. He's got him pulling up. John is clutch, dude. All right, here he is, the 360 Nate. Thank you for that super chat. Connect on Twitter. If Darby's injury history is concerning, then shouldn't Farley's injury be concerning as well? Farley's talent is undeniable, but his injury history is a huge red flag for me. Yeah, dude, it's a red flag. I wouldn't say it's like huge. Let me pull up his college football reference and remind myself exactly what 2018, 2019. Let me circle back on that. But yeah, it's a red flag. Yeah, I mean, you can't get around that. Any player that comes to the table with an injury history of any sort, whether if it's a season ender, if it's knee, if it's ankles, those are red flags for sure.
Yeah, and especially if it's at a position that you've already been beat up at the last couple of years, it's a definite red flag, and that's why I'm surprised the Broncos went in that direction. We can only hope, though, that the magical abilities of Lauren Landau preserve Darby and everyone else's health for this coming season. I'll hold my breath, though.
All right, we got one here from Sam, another newer name on Super Chat. Welcome, thank you. What's the latest about adding a veteran quarterback to compete with Locke? If they bring in a veteran, does that more or less reveal whether Peyton's going to draft a quarterback in round 1? Go Drew Lock. No news. I haven't heard one peep on the quarterback front today. Now, that's probably more a sign that it's the calm before the storm because you just freed up a ton of money. Right. With Kareem, you saved $1 million on Phillip. You got to figure that there's a plan to use that money, right? What's it going to be? Probably a quarterback.
I feel like there's another domino about to fall here. It could be Vaughn staying. It could be Simmons getting his long-term contract. It could be someone like Andy Dalton scoring a multi-year deal from Denver as well. I haven't heard anything, but I did see a tweet from, I believe it was Jeremy Fowler, who said Andy Dalton's likely to leave Dallas because he's getting other offers where he could start or be in a position where he could see starting opportunities. And that second option, that definitely fits the Broncos. So they will bring aboard a quarterback, and these moves they're making right now could be preceding that acquisition.
Man, I'm just trying to still wrap my brain around some of these moves that have just happened.
It's a pot on the fly tonight.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. While John's pulling up this great super from Jackie, let's grab it. Appreciate you, Jackie. Cutler is the best quarterback we've ever drafted. Potential magic with Shanahan was wasted in Chicago. We had our first round picks, still no wins. Go get Watson. Yeah, I mean, I think you have to admit of all the quarterbacks drafted up to this point by the Broncos, because remember, John Elway was not drafted by the Broncos. Peyton Manning, as we all know, not drafted by the Broncos. Probably Jay Cutler was the best original Bronco drafted quarterback, but I'm still, like I said, to me, the jury's still out. The book is unwritten on Drew Lock. And depending on some of these fateful decisions the Broncos make right now in these coming days and weeks, that could and will determine how that story at least gets written in Denver for Drew.
And I agree with you, and I think there obviously still has so much potential upside. But in terms of Kareem, real quick, Chad, from Mike Kliss, they did try to restructure his contract before the deadline for a $1.5 million guarantee option and a $10 million salary. Couldn't be worked out, so the Broncos, like we just said, decided to say, let you hit free agency, and that's that. No decision yet on Von Miller, but Kareem is gone.
Yeah. Well, it's too bad. I mean, look, I know there's some at MHH who disagree with this premise, but I think it was pretty palpable that Kareem took a step back in 2020 from what he did in 2019.
Yeah. Who would even disagree with that? It's evident if you just watch the film.
Doesn't mean he was bad. He wasn't bad, all right? But there were a few games, man, where you're like, really, Kareem?
There were times where he was terrible in coverage, yeah.
Dude, even in run support, do you remember that Sam Darnold 40-something yard touchdown? I mean, made Justin Simmons look shameful and Kareem for just lack of effort, terrible angle on a quarterback. We're not talking Lamar Jackson. Ugly. John Houston, thanks, bro. Honestly, Peyton buckled and got scared. We still are taking a corner in round 1. Our corner room still looks sad with Darby. They took him off his speed. He ran a 4.3. Oh, they signed him based on his speed. He ran a 4.35 40. I think if they signed Darby for anything, Zach, they signed him for his scheme fit for Fangio. And I don't know how smart that is because Fangio might not be here next year.
Yeah, they didn't sign him for his production in terms of interceptions or turnovers because we know that, he didn't perform much last year in that department. They didn't sign him for his dependability or his health because he hasn't performed well in that department either. I think either Peyton, again, he's either sensing there's going to be an explosion in terms of the cornerback market, or he did panic a little bit and wanted to lock his guy in now. Maybe Darby had competing offers, but Chad, I don't know about you. I have not heard one peep about him or his market before the Broncos signed him. So it could be a little bit of an impulsive move to give him all that money that quickly.
Now safety is in big need. You got Simmons this year for sure, provided he doesn't hold out, which I doubt he will. But Will Parks, free agent. Kareem now gone. Suddenly, safety is a big need for the Denver Broncos. The only guy you got to hang your hat on is Trey Marshall. That's it. Bryce Parisian, cool name. Thank you, my friend. Only thing worse than losing Lindsay would be losing Vaughn. We must keep him. All we can do is stay positive, talking to the chat. Can't wait for football to be back. Yeah, stay positive. Keep your fingers crossed. Hope for the best.
I got to give Peyton the benefit of the doubt. I don't think he would decline the options of 2 starting players, Chad. Maybe I'm being overly optimistic, but I happen to think letting Kareem Jackson go is a prelude to picking up Von Miller's option, or at least coming to terms on a new contract. I find it hard pressed to think he's letting 2 of his bigger star players on defense walk away.
Rogue Theory, Josh, good to see you, bro. Super glad to see Shelby sign. Not so much about Darby. That said, I'd like to see us be just as aggressive with picking up Farley and keeping Vaughn. Hashtag Denver Broncos for life. Well said, my friend. I cannot disagree with that. Let's grab Broncos 58 GOAT. As a diehard fan on Twitch, not really sure that the Broncos are doing Shelby a good move. Darby was not a good move. Phillip, no respect from the Broncos, and Simmons needs to get paid. I feel like Elway is still making the decisions. I don't know, man. This to me is like, I don't know, man. Elway kind of held on to his veterans, even the ones that were overpaid for the most part. I mean, there are a few exceptions, but I don't know. I kind of feel like off balance a little bit now with what to expect from George Payton.
Yeah, I do as well, and we have to just let it play out a little more. It's just the first day of legal tampering. I don't want to jump to any conclusions, but it's not – I don't know. I thought it'd be more encouraging after today than it's been so far.
46M fan, 406, so up in Montana. If Lindsay goes to the Patriots, I'll lose my mind. Hashtag payfill. All right, John, throw that one up. I feel you. I feel you, dude. I really do. Daily Charms, another newer name. Thank you. Welcome. I just tuned into this chat. Love this channel. Where do we stand with the linebacker from Minnesota, Eric Wilson? Have you heard anything today, Zach, on the Eric Wilson front?
No, from either the Vikings standpoint or the Broncos standpoint. He's a second wave kind of guy, and it's surprising because you still have, as far as I know, the bigger players out there like Peterson, Sherman, Kenny Golladay, the receiver. They haven't got their deals yet. It's going to be a slow developing market up until Wednesday and through Wednesday. But no, Eric Wilson, I have not heard a peep on.
Michael Tindori, appreciate the super, my dog. Let's not get too down, guys. Hopefully we keep Vaughn. I truly believe Phillip is going to stay. AJ is pretty good. We've filled needs and kept Shelby. You filled needs and then created needs. That's what you've done. So you filled a need with Shelby. Good job. You filled a need with Darby. Good job. Whatever. Then you created a need because Phillip's probably gone now, and you just cut Kareem. So you're now still at 0 in terms of steps forward. You took 2 forward, then you took 2 back. So I don't know, dude. It's we'll see how this puzzle fits together when it's all said and done.
That's a great point, and I wholeheartedly agree with that. It's a lateral day overall for the Broncos. 2 forward, 2 backward, square one.
We got John Houston. Appreciate you again, my friend. Darby's contract equals the Juwan James contract 2.0. Hashtag pay Phil. I feel you. I'm not quite willing to go there with you, though, my dog.
There's just so many. There's the Juwan James, the Melvin Gordon, all the Ronald Darby deal, all these big time contracts the Broncos have given out that I haven't been. The Graham Glasgow, $44 million over 4 years, $11 million per. Again, it's a lot of Elway, a lot of Rich Hurtado, but there's someone in that building, Chad, that just loves just throwing out fun coupons everywhere.
Daniel, thanks again, buddy. He says Darby feels like an Elway or Fangio move. I really hope the structure gives the Broncos some outs after 1 year. Hoping this is the low point this season. And then I think that's where, this season. Yeah, dude. And then here's this other super we got with the Shelby and the Lindsay deal. But yeah, dude, I don't know. Peyton put out that the Darby move was him. It was his number 1 corner on the board. But I agree. As I was writing the article, I'm like, this to me, it smacks of Fangio's fingerprints on another corner that he coveted, that he's probably liked for a few years and been keeping his eye on.
And it smacks of letting Philip Lindsay go and giving a second-round tender to A.J. Johnson, the linebacker. Fangio might wield more power than we know in that Broncos front office. It might be that Peyton is deferring to Fangio because he's been around, and maybe Elway said, listen to Vic. He knows what's going on, and we just don't know for sure. These are all guesses, but it seems like you said, Fangio's fingerprints are all over these Broncos moves thus far.
All right, let me grab Michaela. Good to see you, my friend. Appreciate the generosity, as always. She says, I don't know about you, but I feel betrayed by my Broncos. I will miss Lindsay and Miller. You have players that gave so much, and you won't take care of them. I get it, but hold on one second, Michaela. Forgive us for being a little emotional off the cuff tonight with some of these moves as they're happening in real time. Even though we're telling you we think Lindsay's probably gone, he's not gone yet. They did tender him. So who knows? Maybe it's Zach and I. We're the ones smoking crack, and no NFL team out there is going to sees any value in Lindsay, and he doesn't get an offer sheet, and he ends up coming back and playing on a $2.1 million tender, and you move onwards and upwards. I don't think so, but we'll see. Until that time comes, don't go too far down the rabbit hole.
And I'm thinking about it now. Can we be so surprised though, given the way Lindsay has spoken this offseason, Chad, his interviews, it's not been the same Philip Lindsay. I mean, he's come out and bashed his coaching staff. He's bashed his fellow teammates subtly. He's pined for more playing time. And he gave a Sirius XM interview last week where he literally said publicly, these were his words, I don't know what more I can do to prove myself. I think for him, the writing has always been on the wall that he's not long for Denver. And if that's the case, it's a damn shame.
Royal, good to see you, my friend. It's been a minute since we've seen you in the chat. So welcome and thank you, my friend. Good. And by the way, we got to rapid fire these remaining great superstars because we're out of time and we got a lot to get to.
Hour at 11. Wow.
Royal, could it be that the value of running backs are easily replaced in rounds 2 and 4 and that those backs come in and have produced in the past couple of years? Although I do agree and will miss Lindsay. Yeah, I mean, this is not us saying that running back position, generally speaking, is not a replaceable position. It is. It's one of the most, it's one of the easiest positions to replace. But at the same time, Zach, those truly dynamic players at the position, those are the ones you cherish. Those are the ones you hold on to. Those are the ones that you actually pay and give a second contract to. And I'm still of that opinion that Lindsay is one of that ilk.
I mean, you can argue, he's injury prone, which I don't agree with. You can argue he's not the best pass catcher or pass blocker, but I think it's indisputable considering what he's given the Broncos, 4.8 career yards per carry, 2,000-yard seasons, a Pro Bowl nomination. Is he worth at least $3 million? Is he worth another $1.2 million? Not saying give him a 4 or 5 year contract, not saying pay him like Ezekiel Elliott, but how about a little carrot, a little reward, throw him a little bit of a bone for what he's done for this organization the last couple of years. And not only that, they're not doing that. They're not investing in him. They're actually pushing him out the door and siding with the likes of Melvin Gordon and Pat Shurmur, two individuals who have no connection to or stake in the Broncos the last couple of years beyond last season.
Jeff, thank you, buddy. Why did Vaughn post a dead man in his jersey? Adios. I haven't seen it. I just took a quick look at his Instagram. Was it on Twitter?
It was Instagram. It was a guy in a funeral. Looked like, I don't know if it was related to Vaughn. I think it was a random Broncos fan. He was being buried in a Von Miller jersey. Little bit of a interesting choice for social media for Vaughn, but I don't think that was a sign that he was going anywhere. I think it's just kind of him flexing that in some morbid way that a dead person was wearing his jersey, in the casket. But yeah, it was weird.
I agree with John. It was still sick and morbid. Yes. Dale, wow. Thanks, bro. Thank you so much, brother.
Thank you, Dale.
We love you. We appreciate you. He says, I just got in, but some great news for the Broncos. I think Darby is going to be more effective in Fangio's scheme. I hope we work it out with Kareem. Good work, guys. That was probably – he's been waiting a minute till we got this super. So, yeah, Kareem, Gonzo. But, hey, interesting to hear that D-Dub, he's rubber stamping Darby. And I hope it's true. I'm inclined to trust Fangio because, look, A.J. Boye, before he got the shoulder and then, of course, a concussion and then the suspension, that initial couple of couple of quarters, I guess, against Tennessee, he was looking good. When he came back from the shoulder, he looked good for a couple games. Then he got the concussion. And that was a guy Fangio coveted for the scheme fit component. So I'm guessing that Darby's that same guy. So now you're just praying he stays healthy.
Listen, I'm going to reserve judgment the same way I did for Melvin Gordon last offseason. I said, I do not like this contract. I think the Broncos overpaid, but I'm willing to see what he can do to try to justify that. If Darby goes out there and performs like a high-end cornerback too, hopefully, preferably, I will be the first to say, listen, at $10 million per, I think the Broncos got a good deal. But if he goes out there and doesn't force turnovers like usual, gets injured, gets burnt, goes back to the pre-2020 Ronald Darby, I'm going to say the Broncos did overpay and they probably were desperate and they pulled the trigger way, way too early.
Tony D.A. Dub from Discount Audio and Wheels out there in Los Angeles. Good to see you, bro. Excuse me. Thank you. He says, you have to cut Jackson because Simmons is getting paid. Now he has to groom the next guy coming up and sign a cheap veteran. It's the correct move. Thanks, K-Jack. Go Broncos. Yeah, dude, listen, I'm not shedding too many tears over the Kareem thing. I'm not.
I agree. That's a good move.
It's just the fact that you just created another need. And are you prepared? You got to hope and assume that they have a plan in place to fill that need, because it's not Trey Marshall. We know that.
Right. Yeah, I think I agree with this. I'm not wild about Lindsay. Obviously, I'm not wild about Ronald Darby. But moving on from Kareem Jackson at the salary he was going to pull in was 100% the right move. If they want to re-sign him back for a cheaper deal, that's fine. But if they want to get younger and they want to get cheaper and they want to have a player that has higher upside and longer longevity in this system, in this defense, and it was the right move by George Paton, 100%.
We got Peter Terranova in the house. Thank you, Peter. Make sure you connect with us on Twitter so that we can shout you out after this show, my friend. He says, Fangio's defense is tough and there is a learning curve. With no OTAs, it makes me nervous for anyone to step into Kareem's role. I am hoping for the best. Yeah, I feel you, dude. It's a concern. But again, the way the whole pandemic thing is trending, it feels like things are moving in the right direction. And I'm not as pessimistic, on OTAs as I was when the season ended. It feels like by the time you get there in 2 months, good chance that you're going to be able to have some kind of if you create a scenario where the players come in a week early, they go through all the testing so and they stay on campus so that, while they're in camp, they're not exposing anyone, then you're good.
First of all, what is Kareem Jackson's role? To be really good in run support, to make K-Jack TV, and to be bad in pass coverage? I mean, the Broncos can find that guy anywhere. At whatever he was making, Chad, $10, $11 million salary cap figure, it's way too much money for an aging player who's become one-dimensional. He's the 2021 version of Darian Stewart, a once really good safety that's fallen off pretty fast. And in this business, it's always better, like Belichick has proven for many years now, to move on from a player a year too early and not a year too late. And that's what they're doing with Kareem Jackson. I, as well as Dale, like he said previously, I rubber stamped this move on Kareem Jackson. Not so much Darby, but Jackson.
Cody, thanks, brother. If someone doesn't like Lindsay, why don't they just cut him? If they don't even tender him in the second round, then why keep him? Don't do him like that. Hashtag RIP30. I feel you. It's a frustrating move. Like, I get it. In the NFL, you don't pay guys for services rendered, right? When you actually pay someone, it's based on future projection, what you're expecting to get in return. But in the case of Philip Lindsay, man, he has been played by this team.
Right.
They had the GM last year say, yeah, we're going to take a hard look at getting him an extension. And then they went out and paid freaking Melvin Gordon and then everything that's happened in the interim. Like, if I'm him, I want out of Denver, dude. Get me the heck out of here. I'm praying. I'm telling my agent, dude, call around and find an offer, even if it's $1 more than the original round tender. Get me out of Denver. Here's Jeff saying, Lindsay never had a fumble, and we give him an original round tender. They don't value him. He gone. It's disappointing.
Yeah, and you know what? Like you mentioned, I was going to say what you just said. The Broncos have been playing him, and they've been doing this to him for a while now. It's not just this offseason, but if I'm his agent as well, I believe he has Brian McCartney, one of the better agents in the NFL. I hope he goes on to a better team, and he has more of a role, and I wish him nothing but the best. But if I was him, I would take a penny more or $1 more to go to an AFC West club, like the Chiefs or the Chargers, the Raiders. To stick it to Denver twice a year, that would be my next thing. But maybe I'm more petty than he is.
All right, we got 2 more, it looks like, and then we got to dip on out. Mr. Castillo, good to see you, bro. He says, it's way too early to judge Peyton as a GM. Give him at least until after the draft to see what his vision is. Calm in the storm until you see it hit the shores. Nothing will matter if Locke isn't putting in the work. Yeah, but good points. And I think so far what we've heard in this offseason is that he is putting in the work. He's been at the building every single day, putting in that work, absorbing the scheme, what he couldn't absorb last year because, a good portion of the entire playbook of Shermer did not get installed because they didn't have time. So hopefully he's getting that stuff now.
You know what? As depressing as this podcast has been, it's been so nice not making it a quarterback podcast. Not Drew Lock talk, not Deshaun Watson talk. But really quickly, I saw on Twitter that Jameis Winston, this is pertaining to the Broncos in a sense, Jameis Winston re-up with New Orleans 1 year, $12 million. So if you think the Broncos are going to be in the market for a quarterback, which they will, that could be around the floor or around the market value of an Andy Dalton or of a Fitzpatrick or whoever they sign, somewhere in that range.
Yep. Dave Vega, good to see you, bro. Appreciate you. This may very well be the shakeup that we need. We have Levante Bellamy, Lindsay Light. Get Parsons in the first, grab the safety Richie Grant in the second, some corners and offensive tackles later. I feel you. There's no guarantee you're going to get Richie Grant, though, in the second round. There are some other safeties. In fact, Eric Trickle has a video that's publishing on YouTube in 18 minutes that's going to list 3 guys to look at early that are some of the names maybe you haven't heard a lot about. So check that out. But it's now in big-time need. It's a massive hole now, Zach. So buckle up, and we'll see how George Payton plans on filling it.
I disagree with calling Bellamy Philip Lindsay light. Philip Lindsay is way more talented than Levante Bellamy, but a second-round option could be Paris Ford at safety for the Broncos. I think Grant goes in the first round ultimately, but maybe the Broncos trade back into round 1. They pick up an extra pick. They might move back up into the first. You never know with George Payton, but yeah, now safety becomes a definite round 1 or round 2 need.
All right, real quick before we get out of here, John, I know you mentioned that Antonio was saying that we missed one from him, but I only see the one about him talking about Vaughn. So, and I went all the way back to the beginning. So I don't know if we did end up missing one. Antonio will of course find a way to make it up to you. And we can't get out of here without giving a shout out to our great supporters on Facebook and those who are doing the stars. Look right here, Ian, Brett. We got Brad, Benjamin, Randy, Ty, Nick. All you guys, man, thank you so much for the support. Each one of those stars, it adds up. It all supports the cause. We love you. We appreciate you. But, Zach, we got to go because there's so much work to be done. We got to cover this news. We got to get to what's happening, get it out to our social media channels, and let all the fans know. I mean, it's a lot happening right now. So thanks to each and every one of you for spending some time with us. And, Zach, as you sign us off here, we're off tomorrow night, but we'll be back Wednesday. And by then, man, I shudder to think what kind of tectonic changes could be occurring between now and then.
Yeah, I mean, it could be a new quarterback, could be some trades happening. The Broncos are not done making moves, and I think the next one that could fall will be Von Miller because a call has to be made on him by tomorrow now that Kareem Jackson is solved. We'll know tomorrow, and we'll go knowing into the podcast on Wednesday, knowing how the Broncos stand, what they look like. We will see you then, though, guys. Be sure to keep it locked to milehighhuddle.com for all the content we're going to put out, our social media channels. Thank you, Mo, as always, the MHH male model. We appreciate you, as always. We will, though, see you guys Wednesday night, 6 o'clock Mountain, 8 o'clock Eastern. Take care, and as always,